Governor Shapiro, thanks so much for doing this.
Good to be with you.
So the president of Columbia University is getting a lot of criticism. Your fellow Democrat from Pennsylvania, John Fetterman, the senator, has called on her to do her job or resign. What's your take?
Well, I think we need to restore some order on campuses at Columbia and across this country. Certainly, students and others have a right to peacefully protest in adherence with university policy and the laws of the city and the states they're in. I think what's important is that we can't allow peaceful protest about a disagreement on policy happening in the Middle East to be an excuse for anti-Semitism or Islamophobia on these campuses. We can't allow it to be an excuse that puts certain students at risk to be able to go to classes safely or to be able to worship safely. And universities have a responsibility to ensure the safety and well-being of their students and to make sure that the rules of the university are being followed. What I see from afar at some universities, including Columbia, is a situation that is completely out of control. And it's incumbent upon the university leadership to get it under control quickly for the benefit of the students and the people in the region.
How is it out of control? I mean, there are lines. It's so subjective. Everybody has their own view. Somebody holds up a sign. I saw one at University of Texas earlier today that said something about Palestine, and it's a map of all of Israel, including the West Bank and Gaza, as if that is all Palestine. Does that cross a line? Some Israeli might say, you're saying that Israel shouldn't exist anymore. There are chants from the river to the sea that some people say are just an expression about freedom, and some people say, no, that's calling for the elimination of the Jewish people and the Jewish state. Where do you draw the line when it comes to what you consider to be out of control?
You know, Jake, there may be some subjectivity to the speech. I think it's clear when you're engaging in anti-Semitic rhetoric, Islamophobic rhetoric, there should be no place for that. But even before you get to what's on the sign or what is coming out in the speech, the act of gathering in the way that some of these students have at some of these universities violates university policy and may violate the rules of that particular city or that particular state. That can't be allowed in the name of free speech. And I think several of these university leaders across the country are just simply losing control of the situation. They have a responsibility to keep students safe. Students shouldn't be blocked from going to campus just because they're Jewish or learning in a classroom as opposed to being forced online because they're Jewish. It is simply unacceptable. And you know what? We have to query whether or not we would tolerate this if this were people dressed up in KKK outfits or KKK regalia making comments about people who are African-American in our communities. I'm certainly not condoning that, Jake, by any stretch. But I think we have to be careful about setting any kind of double standard here on our campuses. We got to call it out for what it is, and these university leaders have to make sure there is order on their campuses.
To the front of the line. If you'd like to leave, feel free to leave, okay? Can we stay on the sidewalk?
Overnight, Columbia University and student protesters agreed to extend a deadline for dismantling a pro-Palestinian encampment by 2 days. Our Omar Jimenez is on the Columbia campus this morning with the latest. Omar, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Casey. So, yeah, those negotiations, there were two key moments where obviously the Columbia president set a midnight deadline for them to come to an agreement. Otherwise, they were going to have to find alternative options to dismantle the encampment. That deadline came and went. And then a university spokesman said within the few hours after that deadline that they actually did make some progress. And I want to tell you some of those negotiating tent poles, including dismantling and removing a significant number of tents inside on campus behind me, ensuring that those not affiliated with Columbia University will leave, that only university students participate in the protests, that they comply with all of the fire department's students' requirements with respect to activities and safety, and take steps to make the encampment welcome to all people. Now, look, I spoke to some of the students in that encampment yesterday, and they claim they have been welcoming, but I also spoke to some Jewish students who said that some of them have felt intimidated, and that has been the crux of a lot of this protest. I also want to make a key distinction that there has been a difference in protests that have happened on campus versus off campus at the gates just behind me, where you see some of the barricades and some of the officers. The off-campus ones can have non-students, because obviously it's the sidewalk here, but it's so much so to the point that the student protesters have tried to distance themselves from some of the messaging that comes on the outside, because those tend to be a little bit more violent in nature, and at least in implication as well.